Welcome to Biblical Insights, where we're continuing our journey through the book of Revelation. We've called this series The Mark, the Beast, and the Tattoo. And we will get to that when we go through this, continue on our journey. But until then, we were laying a foundation. We come now to John of Patmos. He's on the island of Patmos. Patmos was an island of Asia Minor, which is today, modern day, Turkey. Patmos was an island that dissidents were sent to. In South Africa, we had Robben Island. In America, they've got Alcatraz. And this was an island off the mainland. And this is where the Romans, when you didn't pay homage to Caesar and say that Caesar was God, this is where you were sent. John wouldn't say Caesar is God. So he went off and he was on this island. And we left last time where I said that he was in the Spirit on the Lord's day. And we wanted to find out what day is the Lord's Day. Now, according to some people, the Lord's Day is the day of the Lord, when the Lord will come back again, and he is going to come back with judgment on this earth. Other people think that the Lord's Day is the Sabbath day, the seventh day, because God says, keep 6 days. 6 days shall you work and do all your labor, but on the seventh day is the Sabbath. Other people think the Lord's Day is the Sunday. So let's have a bit of a look back at the history and see. When we go back and we look at the early church, the early believers, most of the early believers were Jewish messianic believers. That was Jewish folk who believed that Jesus was the Messiah. They wrote a document called the Didache. It was written around about the 1st century, going into the 2nd century, and it was written by the 12 apostles. And they said that they went from house to house breaking bread on the Lord's Day. And when they said the Lord's Day, they meant Resurrection Day. We call it Sunday, but back in those days, they didn't have the word Sunday. That became a Roman word. So they were breaking bread on the first day of the week, commemorating the resurrection of Jesus Christ, the Messiah of the world. John then goes, and as we see and we'll examine it, it's totally steeped in Old Testament. He makes more than up to between 445 to 250 to 450, 500 allusions to the Old Testament. So he knows exactly what the Old Testament's about. He doesn't quote it per se. There's not one quote of the Old Testament in the book of Revelation. But in verse 7, he says, look, he is coming with the clouds, and every eye will see him, including those who pierced him. And all the tribes of the land, or all the nations of the earth, will mourn him. He gets this from Daniel chapter 7, verse 13, and also from 1 Thessalonians 4, verse 17, when Paul says that Jesus will come and meet us in the clouds. Some people call Jesus the cloud man. So we see where he's getting this from, and it's totally steeped in the Old Testament. In verse 8, we then get the words of Jesus. He says, I am the Alpha and the Omega. That's in Greek. In Hebrew, it's the Aleph and the Tav, which is the beginning and the end, says the Lord, who is and who was and who is to come, the Almighty. This he gets from Isaiah 41, verse 4, back in the Hebrew Scriptures. Because we know that God is the beginning. He's eternal God. He always was and he always will be. When he says who was, who is, and who is to come, it is perfect tense when it comes to the Greek. It's the past tense, the present tense, and the future tense. John goes on to describe him, and he says his head and hair were white. He gets that from Daniel chapter 7, verse 9. His voice sounded of many waters. Ezekiel 43, verse 2. He had 7 stars in his hand. In Job 38, and we find there in verse 1 where God is the one who carries the stars and has got control of the whole universe. He is the first and the last. Isaiah 44, verse 6. He is the living one. And David said this in Psalm 42, verse 2. When we go on to verse 20, it says, as for the mystery, this is Jesus speaking. as for the mystery of the 7 stars. Now, when we see the word mystery here, we think mystery is something that's secret that nobody knows. But the actual Greek word that's used here for mystery means it was a mystery. It's a mystery, though, to those who don't understand it. And Jesus is not explaining it. So it's not a mystery to us, but it will be a mystery to others. As for the mystery of the 7 stars which you saw in my right hand, the word for holding the 7 stars was kraton.